I work hard for my results, and I need my diet dialed in. The RP Diet app tells me what to eat to keep me on track and offers suggestions for changes based on my responses, giving me the freedom to choose my path. A personal digital diet coach for less than $15 a month? Yeah, that works.
Folks, we are back from vacation. Good golly, Miss Molly, it's been a while, but we are back. Dr. Mike, how are we doing?
Still healthy, still alive. How are
Yes. I'm feeling it. A little jet lag today. We got in last night. Turns out we actually got in on the last American flight out of Tokyo.
So crazy.
Didn't even realize it. We just overheard somebody say it later, and we were like, "Ooh, that worked out."
Was the airport when you got back?
So the Tokyo, we went out of Haneda at Tokyo, and that was like a ghost town. Nobody was there. We thought it was pretty strange. But LA had like a fair number of people still there. It was definitely light, but it wasn't
crazy
light.
Inspection on your way back in, or no?
No. So they did the crazy inspection for the countries that were on the flagged list, but Thailand wasn't. So they did make us go through like another check at Tokyo, and they made us go through another security checkpoint. But other than that, did the global entry thing, like took my fingerprints, beep, boop, beep, boop, and just left. So not too bad. I am going to do some safe social distancing for the next week or two, just in case. But
San Francisco, from what I heard, has essentially put people in their homes for 3 weeks, and you can't go out.
Yeah,
they have to go buy groceries or something.
What do they call it? Like shelter at home. And I think LA is about to do the same thing, actually. Kind of crazy. Did you hear that the UK is actually just letting the virus run its course and just moving on?
You're kidding.
No. And I think obviously the issue is not so much about the virus so much as the strain on the healthcare system and making sure that it doesn't have a huge spike, but they're just letting it kind of run its course and not taking quite as many precautions as a lot of other places are. So I'll be curious to see how that turns out. Since our cultures are so similar, but their approach is so different.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to the store.
Either go really poorly or really bad.
Yeah, exactly. I think what's interesting too is I was talking to a lot of my clients today, catching up on some emails. I think the economic impact on this is going to be so massive that things are going to start going back to normal sooner than later because people can't just close up their fucking businesses for weeks on end. You know what I mean? And some of the businesses I know in like Michigan, for example, mandated that like some businesses close.
Yep.
Same thing.
It's in Philadelphia right now. Non-essential businesses can't be open that serve the public. So bars and restaurants and stuff can't. They can deliver, but they can't be open to the public.
That's so bogus. That's one of those like
gyms. All the gyms here are closed.
That's one of those really weird in my opinion, take it or leave it. I think that's kind of an overstep, right, on the power a little bit, where it's like you're telling everybody that they can't run their businesses.
Yeah. I'll say that it's. I'm not entirely sure if it's an overstep. I'm very open-minded to that idea. What I will say is it's a thing that comes with serious trade-offs.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel bad for people who are like hourly workers and stuff. Like, man, it's a tough situation. But anyways, that being said, I think that things will, once people start realizing that level of impact, will kind of get back to normal, hopefully pretty quick.
And every day that this social distancing happens, it flattens the curve more and more. So it's like, kind of like after 2 weeks, it's better than if we get 2 weeks of real social distancing out of this, it'll be better than 2 days or 0 or whatever. So.
Totally. So hopefully things get back to normal. And if any of you guys are on the struggle bus as a result, commiserations for you. I know it's tough, and hopefully we'll get back to normal here. But Mike and I are back, and we're going to answer some goddamn questions.
And let's start now. Ready?
Ready.
Tim Morris says, hey guys, let's say a person who is skinny fat takes all the courage he can find and starts cutting to about 12 to 15% body fat, which makes him look even worse because there wasn't much muscle to begin with, thus proving the skinny fat. He then, after maintenance, is finally able to start a proper bulk for the first time. Would you guys recommend training with a full-body male physique template? Or would it be wise to pick muscle groups the person prefers, let's say arms and shoulders or chest and back? Both of the templates are available, I noticed. That's true. Most of the people who use the specialization templates are people that want to bring up those muscles in relation to the others and already have a good base. So you don't have a baseline of muscularity. We really would, on average, recommend buying the full-body template. It's also the most versatile template. If you find yourself that you really wanted to train legs, but you're stuck with an arms, shoulders template, yeah, it has some leg training in there just for maintenance, but it's really just not much. So I would honestly, unless you're very, very dead set on you only want to develop certain muscles, I would probably buy the regular template full body, James.
Yeah, I agree. And this is one of those situations too, where like if you bought the chest and back one, and then compared to like the gains that you would have gotten on the all around, you might get like the same chest and back gains using both templates. And then on the all around, you get all the other gains too, if you're a relative beginner. So I would just do the all around.
Yep. Brandon Armstrong says, typically I end up just using the barbell for the majority of my movements since I train primarily for powerlifting, try to stay fairly specific to that. What are your guys' thoughts on using the Smith machine for barbell movements? When does it make sense to implement it over the barbell? I'm not sure how much variation it reduces. So the Smith machine is fine for just variation. It's also cool for folks like bodybuilders, especially more advanced bodybuilders, who want to have the weight a little bit stabilized, a little bit reduction in injury risk, and who just want to crank away but still like the way barbells move and don't like the limiting factor of machines. So you could do like squatting on a Smith machine can sometimes, if it's an angled Smith machine especially, you could put your feet out in front of you a little more than possible, turning it more into a hack squat type motions, more quad specific, less overall. Various kinds of benching on it is very cool, especially incline benching and stuff. It's just super convenient, and you can just get to work right away. You don't have to unrack rack, which is when a lot of like little small, tiny little micro injuries can happen sometimes, especially if you get really strong. So if it fits the bill, upright rows is just for variation, so it's totally fine. But I wouldn't expect the Smith machine to make these grandiose improvements in your training. I definitely wouldn't expect that. And then this is related, James, so I'll read this next one, and then you can just summarize your thoughts on Smith machines generally, if that's okay.
Sure.
He says, also your thoughts on the use of Smith machine over the regular barbell for beginners. When friends or family ask me to recommend exercise, I usually tell them to start with the major compound barbell movements, but would like to know if leaving out the Smith machine is a bad idea. Since from what I've noticed, people just starting out prefer it, and maybe I'll give them a chance of sticking with lifting until it becomes a habit, then have them switch maybe. Well, so lifting's hard either way, Smith machine or not. I will say beginners, it is my opinion that beginners who learn on Smith machines let the restriction of the Smith machine teach them how to lift wrong. They never develop that stability to begin with. And then they're, first of all, it doesn't transfer to real world strength and health as much. And second of all, it's one of those things where beginners get everything they need out of barbells and have no need for a Smith machine. So if someone only has a Smith machine in their apartment gym, it's totally fine to lift as a beginner. But if they have the Smith machine and a free rack, beginner free rack every single time, James.
Yeah, so it pains me to admit it, but I think the Smith machine is actually really great for hypertrophy and might have some distinct advantages that sometimes the barbell does not have. However, I think that the barbell is good generally for people who are wanting to do sporting things or eventually transition all that muscle mass into strength-related outcomes. I also think, like Mike already said, that teaching somebody how to do the barbell lifts is generally a better idea, because once you learn the technique for all the free weight movements, transitioning to any machine, whether it's a Smith machine or a weird machine that you see at the gym, is generally very easy, because they'll understand what the movement is essentially trying to mimic or trying to promote. So usually the goal is to teach beginners how to do teach beginners really, really good technique on the harder technique, and then kind of disseminating out into other things is really, really easy. So if you teach them how to high bar squat, they'll figure out how to fucking Smith machine on their own. You know what I mean? Same thing for any other machine you can pick in the gym.
Yeah, great insight. Mark Conway says, greeting from Newcastle, Mike and James. Newcastle upon Tyne, isn't that like where that is or whatever? Like the British cities are hilarious because it's like funny. It's literally Shakespearean type shit. So I'm using the male physique template for training, and my partner is considering buying a female physique template. My question are, other than volume, are the female templates any different? And do the female physique templates emphasize different body parts, for example, the glutes, compared to the males? So the answer to that is both yes. The female layout is different. The frequency is different. The amount of exercises is different. The loading pattern is a little bit different. And then do the female physique templates emphasize different body parts? Yes, they do. They emphasize the lower body a little bit more. And he says, I asked because I've advised her to purchase them. However, they're essentially the same layout as the male templates. They're not. I'm happy to tweak this to save her some money. I think you can tweak your male physique template to save money. That's absolutely fine. But some of the tweaks just won't go as far as you want, like especially if she's interested in getting her best results. Sometimes the frequency of stimulation, it's just so much higher on the female physique templates. It's so much more appropriate. but you can't tweak frequency because you have to add entire rows and columns and days, and then you're just making your own plat at that point. Yeah. And he says, as for me, I'm on the week four of the, okay, that's a different question. So James, anything on that I missed? I mean, I basically, I think if she wants the best, there are significant advantages to getting the female physique template. But if you really want to scrimp and save on money, yeah, you can tweak it. You actually wouldn't tweak it much. The male physique template, you would just have her auto-regulate. She might just build up to volumes you would never survive.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's you could definitely use the male physique template, but they would probably be undertraining in terms of frequency, volume, and they'd probably be overdoing it in intensity in many cases. Not all cases, but many cases. So it's doable, but not optimal.
Yeah. As for me, I'm in week 4 of the 5-day template. Providing I don't feel systemically fatigued, would you guys recommend purposefully increasing the volume from week 5 onwards by rating everything as a 1? Or is this silly and best to just continue rating zeros if everything is good? I find I barely/don't have DOMs from the last workout when I train the muscle again. However, the sets in the session do give me a pump and provide DOMs up until the day before I train the target muscle again. I mean, literally, Mark, I cannot envision a more perfect response to getting great pumps
I know where this is going
right before training. So change nothing. Zeros, my friend, James.
Yeah, and I thought you were going to say use the algorithm. To
well, no, yeah, but I think yes, 100% use the algorithm. That's the correct answer. But I think the algorithm's yielding him zeros. So
yeah, totally. So here's the other thing, and it kind of just is worth reiterating. We never purposefully rate anything arbitrarily. You never just say like I'm going to rate these as 1 or I'm going to rate these as 0. You always rate them based on the best, most honest feedback from yourself that you can give. So, I mean, like if it sounds like you're in a good spot. So like, I think what Mike said is in rating it as a 0 is probably a good idea, but just to kind of go back to that point, should you ever just arbitrarily rate them as 1 for the sole purpose of just making it harder? No, you would always go by the algorithm, always go by your best, intrinsic feedback and go from there. So it's not I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make with the templates because they just assume that they should always be trying to, more is better and harder, but that's not always the case. In many cases it is when people are chronically undertraining and they're trying to figure out their MRV stuff. More is better to a point when they figure out where that MRV is and then adjust from there. But for those of you who have been around the block a few times, more is not necessarily better, and just give the best answer that you can.
Yeah, that's super great. Finally, what are your thoughts on creatine monohydrate meal pattern baldness? Nothing. I've been taking creatine on and off for a couple of years, and I had no idea it elevates DHT. I banged the top of my head last week, and upon checking, I came to the startling realization that I am thinning. Oh, no. Not sure whether or not this is creatine related, though, as never usually check as far as grandparents go. It's not looking good for me, as both grandfathers were either bald or had receded. My questions are, do you think creatine could accelerate male pattern baldness due to increased DHT? If so, would you recommend consistently lowering the dose, stopping completely if I'm worried about hair loss? After stopping, is it likely that some hair would grow back? Apologies for the excess of questions. As always, thank you both so much for your soul teaching. Stay healthy. All the best, Mark. Thank you so much, Mark. So I'm going to pitch this one to James after I give like 2 cents because James is the baldness expert because he's not bald and I am. Do I think creatine could accelerate male pattern baldness and increase DHT? I think creatine, I've never seen a creatine increases DHT, but to the effect that it has to increase DHT, it's going to be a very tiny effect because females take creatine with no androgenizing effects, and DHT is one hell of an androgen. So it is the androgen. So I don't know if that's really a thing that's clinically relevant. And James, the rest is on you.
Yeah, I actually have no idea in terms of specifics. What I will say is that even if there is an effect of creatine on hair loss, I'm going to say genetics is going to be the bigger overriding factor. So if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I will say this. I fully admit that I was thinning and I was getting the male pattern baldness right back here for a while. Our friend, Jada pointed it out to me in a very unflattering way.
Fucking bitch.
Yeah, and I started using Rogaine. I actually used like the Costco, the minoxidil or whatever it's called from Costco. And for me, that worked. It actually filled back in. I was getting the typical male pattern baldness spot. Started using that twice a day, and it worked. It works with like 80% of men. If it's male pattern baldness, if it's other, like if you have like a sharp widow's peak or something, I don't think it's going to correct that. But if you're having male pattern baldness, it does work in a lot of people. The problem is it's kind of an investment because you have to use it twice a day. And when you stop using it, your hair goes back to balding again. So
Fuck all that.
yeah, it's a bit of a fuss. But for me, it worked. And I usually recommend it because I was really happy because I was thinning in the top spot. And now I'm doing better.
Harrison Caton says, hi, Mike and James. Hi, James and Mike, actually. Ooh. So recently I started dating this amazing girl who is who is already into going into the gym. But her going to the gym is so different than mine that I don't know how to encourage her or what advice to give her when she asks for it. I know powerlifting, I train powerlifting, everything you do from gym, food, and sleep is powerlifting. She, on the other hand, is more into casual gym attendance for health and says, I would like to get toned and build strength but not get bulky, and she claims that I gain muscle really easily, so I don't want to train heavy.
Ugh.
How much of this is a misnomer? All of it.
Yeah.
Get to that in a sec. And what do I say to somebody whose goal isn't to get big or strong as possible, would like to have abs, fat loss? She showed me Kayla It Signs as an example of what she like to look like. Oh, man. Really? Just like a
she's like the bane of Mel's existence. Mel, we're getting a Kayla It Signs.
Terrible.
Mel just
I'd best describe it as kind of a tennis player's physique. It's funny. Lean but not super lean with little upper body muscle and also low lower body muscle. So Harrison, this pretty straightforward answers. You want to put her on like a 4-day, or if she's interested in your help, a 4-day a week upper lower split, probably like upper session, lower session, upper session, lower session. Moderate volumes, I would say between 3 and 6 sets per muscle group per session. And progressive, sets of roughly 5 to 15 reps per set, 5 to 20, the basics. And then, so there's a very good anti-catabolic stimulus there. And for her, probably a bit of an anabolic stimulus as well. Grow a little bit of muscle. And then what you probably want to have her do is download the RP Diet app. Just kidding, but seriously. Any kind of organization of eating that leads her to drop between 10 and 15 pounds over the course of whatever 3-month period she chooses, that fat loss is going to make her look way more like Kayla It Signs than any amount of gym training or any fuckery that she's going to be getting herself into. So Kayla It Signs' number one big check mark is that she's skinny. Getting skinny is easy. You just eat less. So if you get skinny the right way and drop mostly or only fat and gain a little bit of muscle, she's going to notice that her transformation is very impressive. And because she's going to lose 10 to 15 pounds, she's not going to complain about looking too big almost everywhere. What is it? Milton Friedman said, inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. It's an almost Milton Friedman quote of female fear of muscularity is almost and everywhere a fear of gaining weight and size. Okay, like people say like, oh my God, Marissa Inda is so jacked. But if they realize she weighed at 114, they'd be like, okay, make me look like that. Like she's tiny. I got it. So, very rarely will a female lose weight on the scale. Her clothes will fit looser and she'll get more revealing muscles, making her look more muscular, and she'll complain about it. She'll complain about it if she goes from 150 to 165 and gets more jacked. But It's really the 150, 165 that does it. James?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Really, so the way that you would kind of package it is
you're fat.
No, you say like, okay, you say like we're going to do some weight loss, but the type of
but just you, not me.
Right, just you. If she's asking for your help is what I meant, right? So you're saying like you're going to do some weight loss to try and get the aesthetic that you look, but the type of resistance training that you're doing is meant to preserve your muscle while you're losing weight. If you do other things like trying to lift really high volumes, or trying to do strength or anything, it probably wouldn't work out very well. So you just say like, look, this is basically like a maintenance volume so that while you lose weight, you're not losing muscle. If you don't do this, what ends up happening while you lose weight is you get that hot dog look where you start losing body fat and muscle, and then you end up looking like a hot dog. That's an easy, just I'm telling you, just incept a hot dog in there and people go, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't want to fucking look like that, right? Easy peasy. But she probably doesn't need to be training up to, like figuring out her MRV and stuff. Really, she's kind of the same idea of like maintaining your muscle on like a mini cut where you just take the MV and move it up to MEV values. That's kind of what you're looking at in this situation. Say like, okay, do a little bit more than maintenance since you're cutting. And other than that, just lose some weight and you look great.
Next question from Harrison says, I just competed at a powerlifting meet and had some diet and mesocycle length and timing questions for my next competition prep. For his past competition prep, I did a mass phase where I went from 85 kilograms up to 91 over 12 weeks, so roughly 0.5 kilograms per week. For the majority of the mass, my macro numbers on the app were 200 protein, 90 fats, 315 to 675 carbs. I had about 85 to 90% adherence during the 12 weeks I was massing. Only 5 of those weeks were in the typical hypertrophy rep range, 8 to 10 reps and squat, bench, deadlift, and 12 to 15 accessories for a high amount of sets. The remaining were strength numbers of reps, 4 to 5 reps in the squat, bench, deadlift, 8 to 12 reps in accessories. I would say that's, depending on your number of sets, it could still build muscle. Basically, the 12-week comprised of the following: 1.5 weeks of rather random training as I just come back from around nationals and I had a crap ton of schoolwork to do those weeks. 5-week hypertrophy meso 4-to-1 accumulation to deload. 1 week transition, 4 week strength meso. After the mass, I did 6 weeks of maintenance, but my body weight steadily decreased, but was within the range. I wanted 90 kilograms according to the RP app. Perfect. The macros were roughly 200 protein, 90 fat, and 250 carbs. I started maintenance with my strength meso deload and then proceeded with a 5-week peak and taper. Interesting. Doing a taper on a strength meso is interesting. So
I'm wondering if he meant like he did like 3 weeks functional overreaching and 2 weeks taper, or if he maybe.
Yeah.
Not sure.
By the end of the 5th week maintenance, I was 87.8 kilograms. For a 6th week, I purposely increased carbs and water a lot for my meet, which was March 1st. I felt a little, I guess that was a strength and peaking phase then. I felt a little more comfortable competing with a little bloat and weighed in at 88.7. Note, I did fly to my meet. Okay. Now, as a couple of days after my meet, I weighed in 87.2. What would you say is the biggest cause of these fluctuations in body weight? A lot of it is going to be how pumped your muscles are from constant damage from training. So when you train at high volumes, your muscles hold a bunch of water internally, which makes them look cool. But that's a lot of times because they're being sort of chronically disrupted. Once you switch to a lower volume program, that tends to not happen as much anymore. And you can lose 5 pounds or, 2 or 3 kilos just on intramuscular water. So.
Yeah. And even just flying is known to cause some bloating. So even like you just get on the plane, you're going to be bloated for a few days, get off the plane, comes off.
And then next question is, why did I lose so much mass once I switched to maintenance? That's actually an easy one because a lot of the quote unquote gains you got from massing is just from eating 600 grams of carbs a day.
Yeah. That
amount of water storage from the salt and the carbs that comes with that is often huge. And when you come back down, it turns out your actual tissue gains weren't as much as you thought. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, just de-bloating, basically.
Yep. He said he didn't lose any strength, PR to squat, PR bench, and PR deadlift.
Nice.
So that's really good. Bench maybe went down some as I was expecting to hit 180 kilogram based off of 5RM at 155. Well, your bench has to go down. It has to actually go down to go down, not weird predictions.
Did you say he PR'd on his bench? And then he said
PR'd on his bench by 7.5 kilos. But he said he was expecting to hit 180 off of a 5RM at 155. Listen, the formulas are very rough, so he did not go down on your bench.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
By 7.5 kilos. You didn't go down.
Yeah, if you PR'd, then you didn't go down. You went up. What are you talking about? You're crazy. You crazy, man.
Okay, and then he says, I have 19 weeks up until my next meet. I'd like to dedicate. So all of this sounds pretty good. What I would say is next time, when you're gaining weight, I would stay in hypertrophy rep ranges and set ranges, especially the whole time, not just part of the time.
Yep.
He says, I have 19 weeks left until my meet. I'd like to dedicate 9 to 10 weeks toward hypertrophy. Should I do 9 or 10? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's
remotely,
a very small distinction.
Yeah. What would you recommend my goal weight gain should be for the next 9 to 10 weeks if I plan on doing hypertrophy training? Gaining more than half a kilo a week's not a good idea. And at your level, I would say gaining a third of a kilo to half, maybe biasing towards a third or 0.4 kilos per week is probably good for every single one of those weeks. So slow and steady, especially for powerlifting.
Yeah, it also could depend on what weight class you want to weigh in at too. So it's
totally.
So it's kind of up to, the reason why I bring that up, it's kind of up to you to find the right body weight class, power strength ratio, or strength to body weight ratio.
I'm planning on doing 2 blocks of sets of 8 in the squat, bench, deadlifts. Would you recommend a different rep scheme? No, sets of 8 sound great as long as your assistance work is slightly higher in volume. That's a great hypertrophy range.
You don't have to do like, we like to use ranges. We don't necessarily like to program straight reps. So you could say like 6 to 10, give you an average of 8, something like that.
My current plan is to do 4 mesos total for prep, hypertrophy, strength, peak taper. Would you suggest anything different? So I would say that being that you're still gaining a lot of muscle, I think that's great. That's not the gold standard. As you get better and better, you're going to have to switch to more like 1 hypertrophy, 2 strength, and 1 peak taper.
Yep.
Because you're going to get more used to milking out strength you already have versus putting on size. But I think that's a very fine plan, James. Do you think
Totally agree.
And then I think during the meet, he says, I began feeling tired and hungry around when I started benching. I know I didn't have enough to eat at the meet. For a meet when I'm going without food and water until after weigh-ins, 8:15 a.m. And I'm finishing up third attempts deadlifts at 4:30 p.m.
You didn't eat that whole time?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
No. There's no way he didn't eat the whole time. I hope. For somebody around 200 pounds, what would you want to see in terms of macros throughout those hours as well as caffeine intake? In addition, you just described, can you describe the types of foods, e.g. whole foods versus candy versus junk foods? Absolutely not. We can do you one better. In the Renaissance Diet 2.0, there's an entire section about meet day nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Weighing in, when to weigh in, what to eat exactly after weigh-ins, what to eat after, what to eat, how to eat between your lifts, so on and so on and so on. If we try to describe it, as you can imagine, it's very highly complex. So there's a lot to say. We don't want to fuck you over with partial advice. Check that out, man. That's absolutely what you want.
Yeah, totally agree. And if I'm reading that correctly, it sounds like he didn't eat or drink from after weigh-ins until after deadlift attempts. So you're definitely going to want to fix that if that's the case.
Yeah. I'm still using the app and it started my next mass, but it has me starting at 195 protein, 200 fat, 230 carbs, 3,500 calories based upon what was necessary for me to gain 0.4 to 5.5 kilogram per week. Should I purposely overshoot my macros to start out with or wait for the app to catch up? Absolutely wait, because remember, your maintenance, let's go back and look at your maintenance calories. Your maintenance calories were roughly 2610. There's no way in God's green earth you're not going to gain good tissue at 3,500.
Oh, yeah.
So you're golden. Just follow the app for sure. And he says, I prefer not to waste 2 to 3 weeks. That typically takes to raise calories to the necessary rate and then have to play catch up later. You are not. I promise you muscle is growing under the table there.
It's not a waste. I mean, what's a waste is like gaining 5 pounds of unnecessary fat and then having to spend way more time cutting it off later, right? So,
and also, once you gain the fat, your partitioning ratio, it gets worse. So, like, the worst thing you can do on massing is to gain a shitload of fat up front and be like, that's all right, it'll even out. Like, you got to lose fat after, and that's a whole different phase. So,
it'll even out.
Yeah. So, all right.
Your belly will even out.
Yeah. Jason Koshi says, hi, jump guy here. James, I'm looking at you. James, God. I'll just read these and default to you on all the answers, and I'll let you know if I want to pipe in and say anything.
Okay, sounds good.
Number 1, can you give rough estimates for hamstring, quad, and calf maintenance volumes if solely doing plyometrics, depth jumping? I may want to experiment towards the end of my plan by dropping weeks if I'm not dunking, but I don't want to risk significant muscle loss because I currently weigh as much as a middle schooler at the age of 32.
Yeah, so I think, so in terms of additional quad, hamstring, calf work, it might be like as little as just doing like 2 sets twice a week. So a total of like 4 sets, maybe even less. So I would say anywhere between like 1 or 4 sets of direct work in addition to those is probably pretty close, unless you have giant fucking quads, like Dr. Mike size quads, might be a little bit higher. But if you're doing like a lot of sprinting, jumping, stuff like that, I would say 2 times 2 sessions a week per muscle group probably is good. That's like a very safe, like it might be a little bit of an overshoot, but probably very safe.
Number 2, on the RP Diet app, rating plyometric workouts, volume will be low, but since intensity is high, rate it light for recovery. I would rate it either light or off. It doesn't matter much. Light is fine.
Yeah, I think light's fine.
Number 3, can you answer this question from a broad scientific literature and your own direct experience? Is there the case if you are lifting heavy for multiple months, your body may need some type of weight deload for a month or 2 to realize the potential of athleticism? Thus, idea floats around in the jump community. Someone who lifts for a long period of time takes a significant amount of time off, and they're able to jump higher at the end. James?
So, I mean, like in a very broad sense, yes, it's that's kind of what periodization does for you, where you have like periods that are muscle building, then you have periods that are strength building, heavy loading, then you have periods which are like power based, which are more a little bit less loading, and then you have periods that are like just pure power and speed based, which are mostly unloaded. So that notion is definitely well supported. I think that taking time off from weights exclusively is maybe a short-term gain, long-term cost kind of scenario. And we talked about that the last couple of times. Jump Guy has asked some of these questions. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I don't necessarily think taking the heavy weights off necessarily improves your athleticism, but it does allow you to alleviate a whole bunch of systemic fatigue and allow your muscles to move to a more type 2, more explosive state just from not loading them as much, which is part of a normal deload, taper, or even just mesocycle manipulations in volume over time. So it's definitely a good idea. But all I'm saying is don't get the idea that like not lifting somehow makes you more athletic. That's what we probably just want to avoid, because lifting makes you very athletic, and it's definitely a good long-term strategy to improving athleticism.
Very cool. Number 4, in power block, are there issues with doing strength training after power in the same day? Does it have an impact on power development?
Strength training after power is generally the better way of doing it. So usually like your power type activities aren't going to be so fatiguing that it puts you over your session MRV for expressing strength, whereas the reverse is not true. So if you do your strength training stuff, you will exceed your session level MRV for expressing things like power and strength. So that's why we have them listed in my lecture series on RP Plus. That's why we did the exercise order sequence thing. So yeah, strength, if you have to train both on the same day, power would be speed first, power second, strength later, because strength will be less impacted by the things that you did in the power portion of the training session.
Just to make sure, guys, that you have these sort of theoretical nuances very well laid out in your mind. Some of you may be thinking, what about the research on post-activation potentiation with the very heavy loads that increases power output? Well, the thing is, that's not strength training. That's strength showing off. So yeah, going up to one single or double, super heavy in the squat, just once after a set of warm-ups, just one set, will make you produce more power in the subsequent depth jumps or whatever you're doing for power. The thing is, that's not a 3x5 strength workout. That will deteriorate your power, and it's going to make your power workout after not good. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and in the example he gives, depth drops, then weighted jumps, and some light lunges and RDLs. Yeah, that's completely fine.
General update number 1, got a DEXA, went from 22% body fat to 13.7. Android region from 30 to 18. Yeah, I was fat. DEXAs are directional. I lost 15 pounds of fat and 2 pounds of muscle in the legs. I tell you what, the DEXA is not accurate enough to tell you that, but you basically lost nothing you lost plenty of fat and no muscle. You can definitely say that. I said, with that said, my squat numbers have been going up, so I'm good. Yeah, so it's absolutely not clear you lost muscle in your legs.
Yeah, if your squat numbers are going up, it's very unlikely that you lost any amount of muscle. In fact, you might have even gained muscle. So
yeah. General update number 2, we discussed a few weeks ago in Juggernaut Method 2 versus grinding outside lifting. Thanks for your advice. Juggernaut Method is fun as hell since I'm hitting rep PRs. After grinding through hypertrophy, I needed this, ending the 5 waves yesterday, Saturday. I hit my 1 RM from January of last year 10 times. That's really sweet.
Whoa, cool. Right on, dude. Sounds like it's going well.
Very cool. All right, the man with the plan, Zach Drawl.
Zach Drool.
Sorry for the unedited word vomit last time. I was a voice-to-text typing on my way to work. Your recommendation on Carb Master Milk has been life-changing. Cereal is my favorite food, and I have been able to eat it every single day through this cut because of Carb Master. What are some other amazing high-protein / cut-friendly foods you guys have? I mean, the only thing that comes to mind right now for me is what's it called? Enlightened ice cream is just unbelievable. Charlie Jung, my training partner, eats 1 can of Enlightened every day as he's losing pounds of body fat because it fits that well.
That's a nice
James,
treat.
You got anything?
Out here in California, we have Flame Broiler, which is like the most RP-friendly fast food I've ever seen. It's just like pick your choice and size of chicken, beef, or like you can get like white meat chicken or tofu. Comes with like white or brown rice. Comes with vegetables. Boom. It's amazing. And it tastes good. So that's my favorite.
And then he says, also, the ISSN has position statements HMB and beta-alanine for hypertrophy listed in both as very researched and effective. It also lists citrulline malate as likely somewhat effective. I would agree with their position on citrulline malate, disagree on HMB and beta-alanine. I've seen some data on these supplements that they can reduce DOMs at times. That doesn't actually, it might not mean anything, so we're going to keep that in mind. Even if you don't agree with the efficacy of these supplements, in theory, that reduction in DOMs be limiting to hypertrophy in some way, maybe. Or is DOMS a symptom of good hypertrophy, and this would be merely limiting the downside but not of the gains? So we don't know. We don't know. We do know a couple things. So first of all, if you are reducing hypertrophy, if you're reducing DOMS by shortening the time course in which it occurs, by supplying a ton of rest and nutrients, it for sure increases hypertrophy. Right. So if you used to be sore for 3 days, but now you're sore for 2, it's doing the same amount of work because you're eating more and sleeping better and so on and so forth. Great. We also know that the best way to reduce DOMS, as long as you're training hard still, is to use anti-inflammatory drugs, all of which also curb your growth. So we know that the DOMS conundrum is not a simple one. It's not like if you just reduce DOMS, you'd get better. I remember bodybuilders discovered that if you did post-workout cardio, you got less sore. I mean, that's such a straight-up recipe for gaining less muscle because the reason you got post-workout DOMS is, first of all, you flushed out all the metabolites, and second of all, you probably increased AMPK activity, which just turned back the clock on some of the muscular regeneration that you were sort of enhancing or putting into play. And just not, DOMS would never arrive. Your gains would also never arrive. So it's not that you're trying to get DOMS, or like extreme DOMS is probably bad for gains, but moderate DOMS might be indicative of good things. I wouldn't see that these supplements reduce DOMS as a good thing necessarily. They have to be more vetted directly.
Either way, regardless, and my opinion parallels Mike virtually the same way. But here's the deal. I can promise you that taking beta-alanine or HMB is not going to make a tangible improvement in your hypertrophy training regimen. So that's kind of the, whether or not those mechanisms are there, what are they doing? I can't give you a straight answer because I'm not sure, but I can tell you that that's not going to make diddly dick of difference in your program. So it's probably not worth the fuss is really kind of the short answer. It's not to say that it's not a good thought experiment and worth exploring further, but having used all of those things myself and having plenty of friends who have used them, they just don't do dick. That's just the thing. So don't worry about it. You know what I mean? It's like, and citrulline malate is like the funniest one because it's in every goddamn supplement since the dawn of time.
Yeah,
man. My favorite was still the Extend bandwagon. That was like the golden years for me, growing up in like as a young fitness enthusiast person. It was like
that BCAAs.
Yeah, it was like BCAAs, glutamine, citrulline malate, and it was in this disgusting mixture. And Lane Norton would just dump it all over himself all the time. I was like, this is the greatest time to be alive ever. Lane hadn't gone crazy yet, and supplements were still a mystery.
Yeah. All right. Secondly, I know there has been some conflicting data on this. Still, I know moderate exercise is linked to immune support, both acutely and chronically, while intense and or high workload exercise programs are linked to higher risk of infections. If I were doing something to try to be cautious about Coors Light virus, would doing an MEV to half MRV program and then deloading be safer than traveling all the way up to MRV? Yes, it would, by a very small margin. Absolutely.
So that is true. But then again, so what are you going to the gym for? Are you going to train or are you going to not get sick?
Yeah. Also, you might as well just do maintenance if you're going
exactly.
To do that.
If you're that worried about it, just do maintenance training, and then you have very little exposure or systemic fatigue related. Sorry, my brain's a little poopy today. I agree. At that point, just do maintenance training. If you're that worried about getting sick, if you're going to the gym to train, go fucking train and don't be like, oh, I'm going to take it easy because, coronavirus. No, fuck that. Go train if you're going to train. And if you want to take it easy, take it easy. There's not much wiggle room in between, or that's mostly just a waste of your time. It's not like a pride or ego thing. It's just reevaluate why you're going to do what you're doing. Man, I'm having a hard time talking today. This fucking jet lag's killing me.
Fuck, man, that sucks.
Just a little brain foggy, but I think you guys get what I'm trying to say, even if it wasn't very eloquent.
Yeah. All right. And he says, P.S. I am selling a new special lean, keto-friendly, snake diet-friendly, carnivore diet-friendly form of creatine. Let me know if you're interested. It's definitely not Anadrol.
Oh, my God.
It's not Anadrol.
I need to know more. Take my money.
Know more?
It's
Fictional
desire to know
funkness.
more intensifies.
Yes, that's right. Fictional Funkness says, what assistance exercise would you recommend for powerlifters whose weak point is thoracic extension? So high bar or camber bar or safety squat bar, good mornings, are excellent for this because thoracic extension is like real big limiting factor there, as well as the new flexion rows that myself and my training partner have been doing. Check them out on our Instagram. Those are 2 exercises I can recommend right away. As well, also, if you do chest supported rows with an intentional extreme flexion or extreme extension, like actually James and I did when we were training in Thailand. So it's also on my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Give those some looks, James.
Yeah, those are really good suggestions. I would also say that, if you're training for powerlifting, it's fair to assume that you're doing quite a bit of deadlifting variations. And I would say that's probably going to be largely covered over time by that, unless you have a very distinct So the reason I'm saying this is because I suspect this is one of those when people are like, they're just trying to find little minutia things that they suspect is wrong with them when there's really probably nothing wrong with them. It's just like, you just need to go train and just keep training hard and you're probably fine. This might be one of those scenarios. I don't know, but I suspect usually when people have these really fine tuned, I really need to work on, this very explicit thing. And it's like, if you're deadlifting, most people don't have too much trouble with thoracic extension. You know what I mean? So I would say just consider that. And if you are, and if you've identified that you're having a weak point there, then all those exercises that Mike recommended are really good. So
For sure. All right. Tyler Sawinski says, hey, Dr. Mike, Jack James, thanks for answering some of these questions. Very much appreciated. Would love your take here if you have a moment. I have bilateral inguinal hernia repair scheduled this week.
Ugh.
Recovery requires omitting lower body movement patterns with bracing, squat, deads, RDL, etc. These will be out of my program for about 6 weeks as per my surgeon. While this isn't ideal, it seems like a great opportunity to focus on some pushing, some pulling, shoulders and arms or whatever is allowed once I'm allowed as I work back towards full health. So here's the thing. When you have a surgery like that, for about 2 or 3 weeks, you won't be allowed to lift at all.
Right.
So basically for 3 weeks, you can lift other than upper body focus. And he says, would you mind talking through a few considerations on how best approach training once allowed under these conditions? Yes. You're going to do mostly machines, very, very stable. You're going to do start out with lots of higher reps, lots of sets, not super close to failure because you don't want to struggle. And then as the weeks go by and you feel better and better, you're going to keep the high reps but approach failure more and more and keep the volumes relatively high. And, well, when you come back, start with lower volumes, right, because you're going to be detrained after 3 weeks. And then slowly raise your sets, slowly raise your weight a little bit to stay in the 25 to 30 rep range for most exercises. And then come back and go closer to failure, closer to failure, closer to failure, add sets as needed. And then after about, 8 weeks of training like that, and starting to do some rehab work-ish type of stuff, maybe a little bit of training similar to that for the lower body, you're going to be in a position to start more or less normal-ish programming and then go from there.
Yeah, I think that was a really good suggestion. And, you might start your lower, when you actually get back to, lower body stuff, even if it's not like training, really, really hard training, you might just start off doing some basic stuff, like some knee extension, some knee curl, some 45-degree back raise, right? Just building up some tolerance to training before you get on the leg press, before you think about getting on that Smith machine, before you're thinking about taking a squat or a deadlift, just some real basic stuff in the legs just to kind of really, again, build up that tolerance to training. I had a fucked up thing happen to me this morning. I had been doing cambered bar squats for my last block before we went on vacation. So it's I've been squatting with the fucking barbell. Today I just did a swap. I'm doing a mini cut right now. I swapped exercises. I just went to high bar squat. I immediately overreached my adductors on the first set, and I just kind of ignored it. I was I'm just jet lagged, cramping, whatever. Nope, for sure. I did 3 sets of 8-ish adductors completely just blown out to pieces. I have no idea why. But just tolerance was gone. Have you ever had that? I was so mad because I was I've been squatting. It's I've been doing fucking cam bar squats. It's not that different. You know what I mean? But it was it was as if I hadn't squatted in months. I was I just instantly overreached my adductors fucking day one.
Thanks, adductors.
Yeah.
Adductors are real. They take a ton of damage, man. I've done a 1-day adductor overreach before, for sure.
Yeah, it's just even guys like us make knucklehead moves like that. I just ignored it on the first set. Nah, you're fine. 2-3 sets later, can't walk.
Nope,
great.
Not fine. All righty. Yardan Tsanyev says, hi, Docs, a couple questions for you. Number one, what is the best calorie expenditure to fatigue ratio cardio modality in your opinion? I assume the answer would be walking. Walking is definitely up there. The elliptical is up there as well. What if we put time into the equation? Feel free to get exotic. Incline walking with a weighted vest. Well, so that's going to save you some time, but it's going to increase the fatigue. I will say the elliptical, because first of all, it's not impact. Second of all, it's upper and lower body. And third of all, it has a pretty nasty calorie throughput, which means like per unit of time, you can burn a lot of calories spread over most of your body. So its calorie to fatigue expenditure ratio, I would say, is the best. Does that mean you should only ever do it? No, but it's definitely a great modality.
And it's mostly concentric only, too, for the most part.
Yes.
Like you push this way, you pull this way, and you don't really have the loaded recoil, which is really nice. Anytime it's an SFR question, including calories, again, keep in mind this is going to be very variable from person to person. So what is best for Mike and for myself might be different. What's best for you might be different. It's just one of these things. It's just there's a lot of individual variation there. In terms of, I think – like uphill walking, weighted vest walking, any of those are generally really good. The downside is they don't burn a ton of calories, so the amount of time that you have to invest into them is generally large. Anytime you want to shorten the time scale, the fatigue scale goes up. It's a big trade-off. So some of the ones that I think are the best are the elliptical, like Mike already said. I'm a big fan of the assault bike, very similar. You get the upper and the lower. The only thing is with the assault bike, your quads do tend to take a bit more of a beating because the power output's just a little bit higher.
Yep. He has a very related question right after. So he says, sometimes the only option I have is stationary bike, which I think for some people could have a really bad calorie to expenditure to fatigue ratio. I would usually prefer to put it on low resistance and pedal a bit faster that way, so it does not fry my quads. How would you go about this approach? I mean, I definitely wouldn't put it on high resistance and get fucking pumped. Like, put it this way: if you're getting a pump, that's not cardio. Okay?
Well, I mean, like it's with the cycling, it's like it's hard to not get a pump. You know what I mean?
Which means it's shitty cardio. It's going to cost your fucking legs, right? So the less pump you can get, the better on cycling. And oftentimes that means cycling is just a fucking. Here's the funny thing, right? The bicycle is designed as a way to increase propulsive output massively while conserving calories. It's highly efficient. You put you on a bicycle, you burn 5 calories, you go like half a mile or some shit. On your feet, you're way less efficient. But a loss of efficiency is sometimes a very good thing because it lets you burn more calories. So, from that perspective, cycling is just, it's very local to your quads, and it's not a great way to burn calories. It's not weight supported. So it's got some downsides. I feel like your approach is good within the means that you're using it. And he's saying, I'm just imagining it being better than medium distance, medium speed cycling if my objective is to burn similar calories with less fatigue. Yeah, totally. The slower you go, the less fatigue you accumulate per unit of calories. But it does mean that it takes you a while to burn the calories. So there's a time trade-off there as well. I would say if you have a stationary bike, James may disagree with me on this. We'll see what he says. But honestly, dude, if you have a stationary bike and nothing else, I would just fucking walk for my cardio with a backpack on.
Or you could do both, right? You could have a little bit of both for your cardio source. So you could alternate, like you could do walking on some days or cycling on others. I think cycling is fine if you actually if you look at some of the the VO2 stuff on cycling, it's pretty up there. It's not as good as like ambulating methods like running, for example, but your quads are going to be the limiting factor and it could impact your quad training. Whereas something like walking or elliptical, you can just activate a whole lot more muscle mass at the same time, which is going to burn more energy per unit of time. So I like cycling as a method, but it's probably better for cardio purposes rather than like NEAT or LISS type stuff for energy expenditure. If you want to get really strong cardio, the bike's great. If you want to just burn some calories, maybe not the best trade-off.
Yeah.
Structure and flexibility. The RP Diet app builds a structure of eating that creates the results you're looking for, but has the flexibility to let you scan your favorite foods and follow your preferred diet philosophy. The digital diet coach in your pocket is more powerful than ever. So let's build a better you with the RP Diet app.
This is kind of more, this is one of those things like the number 30% is there to signify like plenty of breathing room from MRV.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
meant for you to go, I need to calculate my MRV and then
Yes.
reduce it to 30% less.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is just meant to say like, give yourself a hardy margin of error away
Yes.
from MRV.
And to be completely honest, the lectures you saw are intended for trainers who are advanced, training beginners. So they'll be able to tell when clients are coming close to their MRV. As a beginner, it's really tough to tell by yourself. But generally, when you feel like, whoa, fuck, this is a lot of work, don't go up from there. Not for the first year or two. That's it.
Yes.
Last one, Mike mentions progressing from 6 to 4 RIR to 3 RIR for beginners. I only know when I have 3 RIR when the bar speed slows down. Sweet. How do I figure out being 6 RIR when the weights I use increase session to session and prevent me from estimating my future rep results? Listen, so you're never going to go down in reps because you're getting strong so fast. So 6 RIR is when the weight first starts to feel like it's weight, right? So when you're like have to start not grinding, but slowing down your reps a little bit, okay, that's like roughly 6 RIR. 3 RIR is when your reps slow down a lot and things get real tough, right? Things get notable at 6, things get tough at 3. So basically 6 RIR you can judge is if the next rep is going to require basically no effort, you're not 6 RIR. If the next rep is going to be like, okay, now we're working, that's like 5, 6 RIR, okay? So as a beginner, you want to just be real easy on those and don't do a whole lot of them. And so you basically want to start at sort of, business set of like, okay, this, like felt like work. And then 3 RIR is going to be like, wow, this is real tough. I only have a few reps left, right? So 6 RIR is like when it gets tough. 3 RIR is when you feel like, okay, I only have a few reps left. That's way harder than tough. Hopefully that makes sense. Mm-hmm. How does an accumulation phase for a beginner look like? It looks like, well, wherever you read this other shit, that's where you're going to read much more in-depth discussion. But basically, you stay in the 5 to 10 rep range mostly. You, pretty rapidly add weight to the bar as long as your technique is stable. Then you add a few sets now and again if you're just not getting sore anymore or you feel like you're training super easy. And you just keep doing that. And then sometimes if you can't add weight, you add reps. And then at some point you get pretty tired and you think, okay, like MRV is coming up at some point. I feel like I'm doing a lot of work. Then you recycle back down and deload for a week and then start an accumulation phase again.
Yeah, so not terribly different from other accumulation phases. Just
staying far back.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Jolly, with our last RP Plus question, says, hi guys, in general, what are your thoughts on removing a treasured movement for only the last few weeks of a cut in order to bring it back potentially resensitized for subsequent mass block, predictable context? I've discovered a few movements in my current cut that, using soreness as a proxy, have seemed very potent, and I'm actually slightly concerned. They've thus been wasted on my calorie-depleted body. So remember, sometimes you can build the beginnings of muscle in a calorie-depleted state, and as long as you go into muscle gain within several weeks, it can actually end up gaining all that muscle. So there is good news there. With the last mass cycle of my cut coming up, I'm wondering if I should, as mentioned, temporarily push them aside to potentially improve their readiness for the subsequent mass. I think that's totally fine. What you can do is just train them with a very low volume so that you're becoming neurally better at them, but you're not pissing away tons of volume resistance. James?
So I generally would go against like making really, really big changes that are not necessary kind of when you're already in your mesocycle, or if you've been using an exercise like throughout an entire block already, man, you have a hard case saying like, oh, should I just make a really big swap on a different exercise? Like, you can, but it really does kind of throw a wrench into everything else that you're doing, especially when you look at like systemic spillover or fatigue on other exercises and stuff like that. So I think the idea is like, okay, it's not something that I would generally do. I think maybe what might be a better idea is just taking like a short maintenance, like a 3-week maintenance phase, and just cooling down that movement, do something else, and then you can bring it back for your subsequent mass. That might be a good option, but I don't know. I have a hard time endorsing that one with a really enthusiastic endorsement, but I think it's okay.
Yahoo.
It's a lot of like for me, that's like a big change to make like well into like a block or a mesocycle.
Sure. Yeah, agreed. Next question. And he says, it seems an obvious yes to me, but I refuse different approaches for similar situations, perhaps a rep range switch. You could also do a rep range switch. That's that might be even the better way. Mm-hmm. And a quick second question, in view of the recent stuff on the physiological muscle building processes being more complex, do you feel like cycles of 2 mass mesos and 1 mini cut means too short a massing period? And that one should really be doing 3 in 1 if possible? I'm not convinced of that. I don't know. Because a lot of these things you put into motion during massing and then they are realized during potentially even a mini cut, and then you start remassing again and they work. I think if you're consistently training hard, it might not have to be all high volume all the time for long stretches of time, but I'm not sure. I do know that you don't ever want to train needlessly cut off mass phases when you're still getting great responses. And I also know that you don't want to go longer on massing, even though it's dog shit training. People say, like, oh, but it's just 6 month mass. Like, really? How's month 5 going to work? And they're like, well, I'm going to be like beat the shit. Stop doing that. So,
I'm like, how much weight did you gain? Oh, like 4 pounds. Like, get the fuck out of here.
And another one. I've been enjoying citral and malate lately, but I know that
God damn, it came up again.
One of madness. Please forgive me if I misinterpret that, Mike. No, absolutely correct. It's very. It's just not enough literature on it to make me tilt my hat. And I was actually going to be like, wow, citral and malate's looking good. And then a couple of studies came out that was like, nope, doesn't do shit. It seems to me like if the supplement does indeed serve to enhance a pump, then the self-swallowing effect should make an attractive supplement option. I would agree with you, unless unfortunately we know from our experience on NO boosters that it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, NO boosters do really enhance a pump and don't seem to show dick as far as enhancing hypertrophy. So I don't know if it's that straightforward. It's still a bit
That'd be.
mysterious.
Oh, well. Whew, that was a lot. You want to go to YouTube?
Real quick YouTube, and then we got to run.
Yeah, this is where we get to creep on Dr. Mike's YouTube playlist thing going on here.
Yeah.
Everything you have always wanted to know.
There's some real dumb shit here. Like, let's see what's dumb. That's dumb. How to maintain muscle about the gym. Greg Doucette caught the money on that. Athlean X, bulking and cutting. He's got the truth, folks. What that name just gets to me.
Oh, did you see that Kevin Lee fight recently? Sorry, I saw some fighting stuff.
Yeah, he like tapped and then pretended he didn't. I didn't see it, but Yasha told me about it. He said it was like really embarrassing.
Dude, he tapped clear as day. And then like the ref stopped the fight and he tried to keep fighting and was like, oh, what are you stopping the fight for? It was like they showed the replay of him like, it's like,
you're a cunt. Dude. Next time, don't bother tapping.
Jorge Masvidal had like the funniest response to that. I think it was a Twitter or Instagram or something, but he was like, you should be cut, you hoe ass bitch. That's awesome. Jorge's the real intellectual rock star of MMA. Is he, who was he fighting? Who was Kevin Lee fighting? Fuck, I forgot. Who was he fighting? Oh, Charles Oliveira. Oh, Oliveira. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's pick up a few simple questions this time, and we'll be back to full strength later when we have fewer questions, because this was 2 weeks of questions. Yowza. Elijah Clifford says, being able to get your former musculature back faster, a thing via muscle memory, is a thing. Yep. Does strength, cardio also have that ability? How do things work in that regard? Yes. Yes. So cardio has that ability to a smaller extent, but your mitochondria don't just disappear. And they can regenerate faster if you've had them before. So that definitely works. Although in cardio, it doesn't work nearly as well. However, in cardio, one big thing is like once you learn how to run or swim or bike, your efficiency is something that comes back real fast. So you return back to really good training really fast. You also know how to train really well, and you know all your landmarks and what's too much and what's not enough. So those people come back real quick. Strength, absolutely, because strength is largely measured, is based in muscle mass. And what strength isn't based on muscle mass, the vast majority of the rest of it is based in technical ability. And you don't forget how to squat in any fundamental way. You're rusty. That comes back real quick. Strength might come back faster than size because neural gains come back real fast. It's like you learned how to speak French up until you were 10 years old and you moved to America. You go back to France when you're 15 for 1 month, you speak perfect French at the end of that month. Like, fuck, man, it doesn't take the, strength or rather muscle size takes a little more than that if you haven't trained in 5 years to gain back. But it's neural thing. Neural processes are very, very adaptable, very responsive. And even using another motor example, it's like if you learned how to ride a bike at some point, like you can not ride a bike for 15 years and get back on the bike and be able to ride it. Even you might not be able to do a mountain bike ride, but you can get on the bike and ride pretty quick. Yeah. Manoli Bergen says, how to determine what load to use when starting a mesocycle. So you should know how strong you are and you should know what reps roughly you need for what rep range. And then you've predetermined your rep ranges already. And you want to shoot for a load that gets you into whatever rep range you think is good with 3 to 4 RR. That's it. And the good news is you have a whole session to do that. The first microcycle of
every day. Like when Charlie and I do a new meso, we roughly think we know what load we need, but sometimes we go to like 400 or something. And we're like, you do a warm-up set. You're like, dude, I'm going to do like 12 of these. It's not going to be 8. Like it's supposed to be 8. Well, it's 425. You know, we do 425 and then it's 9. And we're like, okay, next week we're going to go up by 10 pounds instead of the predicted 5. So it's always auto regulation. This nothing short of knowing yourself. There's more intricate answer we could give, and we give in the upcoming hypertrophy book about like how to progress. If you're a beginner, like you go up, 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 and then where do you restart your weight progression? If it's in the same rep range, do you start right where you were? If you're a beginner, yeah, you basically just keep going up. If you're intermediate, you go basically halfway back down where you were through the mesocycle. Like if you did like 280, 290, 300, what do you do on your next one? Well, if you're beginner, you do 310 or 300 again. If you're intermediate, roughly, you do like 290, and then you go 290, 300, 310. And if you're advanced, you do like 302 or 280.25, and then you go to 92.25 and 302.25. So basically, like that's just to the matter. James, anything to add on there?
Yeah, and this is just really what it boils down to is just keeping good like training logs and good records of things that you've been doing. Like, so if you keep a workout journal and you're like, I don't know how much I should be squatting for, roughly 8 reps today. Like, well, go back to the last time that you squatted 8 reps, see where you were. And it's probably going to be right around that weight, maybe hopefully a little bit more.
Yep. All right, James, one last question for you, which I don't know shit about, but this is actually very interesting.
Oh, no.
Nichols said, I get pushed over easily. I easily get pushed over when moving the ball, I guess this is basketball, even though we all weigh the same. I was told by a team member that I should go to the gym and do overhead press and hex deadlifts. Do you agree? He fixed the same issue with that prescription.
So I mean, like, on a very simple level, yes, but I think the underlying issue is like if you find that like if you're doing like team sports or contact sports, and when you are having contacts, you feel like you're getting overpowered or just not as strong as some of your other people. That's kind of the underlying problem, is that you're probably just not as strong as they are. Perhaps they're heavier and bigger, or perhaps they caught you flat and they were moving fast, right? You were stationary and they were moving, or you were changing direction. They caught you off balance. Those are all feasible options. Sounds like, just from the description, more often than not, might be a strength thing. And so things like overhead pressing and hex bar deadlifts are certainly ways that you can go about getting stronger, but there are plenty of other ones too. If it is basketball, let's just assume it's basketball, because that seems like it was.
Everything's basketball.
I would say squat, get good at squatting. Stuff like that, get good at like bench pressing, maybe some incline bench pressing, something like that, and even overhead pressing. I think those are all good. But yeah, certainly any of those movements are fine. But don't think that there's a magic prescription going on there with the overhead pressing and hex bar deadlift.
That's it. It's exactly those two exercises.
Right. It's the issue is get stronger.
Yeah.
And that won't happen as much. Those are just avenues for you to help you get stronger.
Yep. Boom. That's all we got.
All right, folks, thanks for being patient with us. Hope you enjoyed. Had a nice long one. We should be back on schedule and have all of our thoughts and well wishes going out to you guys. If you're stuck in your home or you're having trouble getting food or gym access, we feel you. Hopefully these things will calm down and we can all get back to the game train.
Yep.
That's it for me. Anything for you, Dr. Mike?
That's it, man.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Peace.